All right, I think we're up and going, finally. And, all right. There we go. Substack is up? Good, okay. Didn't show it on my end. I don't know why. I'm working on it. All right. Yes. All right. Almost there. Hit that like, everybody. Share the show. About to get started.
This man's obviously a lunatic. I'm calling security.
Hey, careful, man. There's a beverage here, huh?
No Instagram. Facebook's good. No Instagram. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's weird. I don't know why. It says it's up, which is even weirder. All right, screw it. I'm just going to join with you guys. Hold on. You'll come in and I'll just talk to the chat room and say hello to everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the show. It's South Park's Mornings Megaworldwide chat room. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good day, good evening, good afternoon. Whenever you're watching this, I hope it's good. I wish I could promise great, but that's up to you. I mean, I wouldn't even lay that off on you. You know what I mean? Like it would be irresponsible of me to insist you have a great day without your permission, without your consent in that regard, I suppose. All right, now I'm going to try and, let's see, we'll copy this, and put it into here, with the thing, and I'm doing that, paste. All right, that's fine. Then the stream key, we copy the stream key like we have done in the past, and everything worked fine, and we paste that in there as well, and we click OK, and then we do this little thing, and we click to Instagram, and it should start sending a signal to Instagram, and then the little page that says go live should pop up, and then I hit that, and then we're on, but for some reason, fine, you know, just, I think it's Macedonian hackers. I think I've been a target of the deep state for a very long time, and I'm getting used to it at this point. Everyone fears my message. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's the greatest live stream in the history of live streams. It's South Park's Megaworldwide, and I think we're going to have Cliff Schechter in a few minutes. Yes? Yes? At some point. I don't see him in there yet, but in our little interview cubby hole, quite yet. Tara Dublin will be joining us second hour. Obviously, there are a couple of big pieces of news right out of the gate, though. Is one of them being that the big BS bill, the budget-busting bill, is limping its way through the Senate on its way to failure in the House. I got to tell you, kids, I've said this before, that they are in a situation where every time they gain 10 votes one direction, they lose 20 in the other, and especially in the House. And at the Senate level, you already have Tom Tillis saying he's not going to run again. This is going to be his big final stand, you know, kind of John McCaining his way through a thumbs down on this bill, and rightly so, because of the Medicaid cuts alone and the damage it would do to a bunch of red states, and the red states know it. A lot of them are starting to get this whisper talk behind the scenes that, like, we'll repeal some of the Medicaid stuff later. We just want to make it look like we did this big cut so we could get the tax breakthrough, and then we'll fix it later. BS. So what I will say is, and we'll talk to Cliff about this as well, everywhere Trump tries to push this thing, they it's all about the deadline. It's all about doing it by July 4th so he can declare something on July 4th because it makes good TV. He's walked back a little bit of it lately where he's like, I don't know if July 4th matters all that much or whatever, when he absolutely knows that it does. And if they drag this thing out, if it goes past July 4th, what they're going to do is pass a gutted version of it through 2 more bounces through the House and Senate that barely does anything except the tax cuts. And that they can do with, stripping out everything that can be done. There's Cliff joining us in the background. There he is joining us. What's happening, fine sir? Good to see you this morning. I will bring Cliff in just a second. But hello. All right, there he is. I see you. I'll start bringing you in just one second.
I hear you now.
Yep, excellent. And I will start this, and you will see. Whoops, there we go. Hey, all right. And I'm going to bring in Cliff Schechter right now. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the Cliff's Edge himself. Hold on. Why am I... Oh, my little camera's making a edge on there. That's just not right. Hold on. I'll
it's
fix
my
that
edge.
myself. I blame myself. You've added an edge to the thing in general.
Cliff adds an edge,
It's true. I've heard of it happening. So this is happy Votorama to all those who celebrate. And then, of course,
betrayal.
Yeah. I have to say, between the Tom Tillis drama and the fact that I've been saying that for every 10 votes they gain in one chamber, they lose 20 in the other because of, these competing interests and these, competing head-on collision aimed trains of desires, wants, and promises that Trump has put forward, that whatever they come up with is going to be both terrible for human beings and rip the threads that are holding their party together.
Yeah. Can I want to say 2 things. The big one is, well, I'll get to the other one in a little bit because it's just sort of an announcement. Sure. If there's a point in the show where I can make kind of an announcement of something cool, I'd love to do that. But
yes, of course there is.
But the thing right now, and I'm going to be putting this in my Substack today, is I need people to stop pretending there are reasonable Republicans. There are moral Republicans.
Right.
They are all fucking MAGA. All of them. Stop calling, again, this is sort of the final death blow, if you want to call that, as if it didn't happen ages ago. But when somebody who pretends to be a decent person, and maybe some of us, hope that she was in Lisa Murkowski, goes and makes a deal to protect the people in her state, and I'm not sugarcoating this anymore, I'm saying it like it is, to protect Alaskans and kill other Americans, because that is what this will do. To have Americans die from lack of health care because their Medicaid's gone, have them die from lack of health care because of Medicare, gets hit by these guys, have them die because of lack of Social Security because they can't find out where to find it. And the Republicans have this big, sort of game they're playing right now. It's the same thing with birthright citizenship, which is if you're educated enough and wealthy enough to know your rights, chances are you'll be okay. But if you're not, and you don't know who to contact, you don't have the right connections, you're screwed. It's no longer that this stuff just automatically comes to you and protects you. So Lisa Murkowski is killing people. Actually, let's change that. She's murdering people. She knows what she's doing. She's doing it ahead of time and to save Alaskans. So honestly, I won't say what she can go do to herself because maybe that's even a little far for your show. But Susan Collins is the same thing. Her with the frowny face and the pretend moderate and I'll be here for you, but then votes for, drunken boy hanging out with Squee and the boys lifting weights and drinking too much and Brett Kavanaugh and sexually harassing and assaulting women. Like these 2 people are MAGA, they're scum, and we need to start treating them that way and behaving the way the Republican Party does. Not this bullshit where we, let's try to make deals and then maybe we'll run against them 6 months ahead of time. They both have won because they've got powerful, popular names in their states that has overcome all the terrible stuff they've done. We need to start going after them now and making everybody know exactly what's in this bill they voted for and that they're no different than Mitch McConnell. They are no different than Donald Trump. They are no different than Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz or any of them.
Right.
That is what we need to do.
The difference has never been more stark. It has never been more obvious. And even the people who seem reasonable are either cowards who are bailing out while, guaranteeing that they know this tax cut part of it is going to go through. That will benefit them in a private business situation in the same way that, Paul Ryan and others bailed after they got the tax break they wanted. They left and went into private industry until such time
Tom
as
Tillis now, I assume.
Yes, right. That they go into
the
private.
other thing is go ahead. Let me let you talk. Go ahead.
Yeah, they go into private business. They leave Congress and go into private industry because they know there's a tax break that will benefit from them. They know all the inner workings of it, how to benefit it. They get on these boards and explain to them the fineness of the law that they helped write. And then if it's ever repealed, they'll run for re-election and go back and do the exact same thing. The other thing is that Lisa Murkowski's changes in Alaska, one of them, I don't even think people are aware of this, have to do with like provisions for whaling ships. Like there's a tax break for fucking whaling.
I mean, they're just, I get that they all have to do some of this kind of stuff. And you know what? If she got the whaling thing put in there, I don't know if the whaling industry, whatever, but obviously I hate whaling and it's horrific and we shouldn't be doing it at all. But if there was some sort of, something that she needed something for and did the right thing, but first of all, thinking about, I can't, whaling to me, killing one whale seems awful. So no, screw them. But if it was for the fishing industry or whatever it was, I can deal with the fact that they have to wheel and deal and do whatever they must do, but that means you wheel and deal and you do the right thing for that benefit. You don't kill people by taking their health care for it. So
it's even worse too in that front. This also worse in that front because this bill not only cuts Medicaid for the lower 48 across the board, and especially in red states that she presumably gives a shit about the voters in those states, whatever. But there is a special carve out. Medicaid funding is boosted in 2 states, Hawaii and Alaska. There's $6 billion in this to boost Medicaid funding in Hawaii and Alaska. Why? To buy her goddamn vote while it gets cut in the lower 48.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just so she can protect herself politically. And the other thing is, again, no free ride here, as you were saying, also to Tom Tillis. Part A is they get to go out to business and benefit. I remember the one who did that the most was Bob Corker. Oh, because he's a big real estate guy. Made sure to stay around for that first Trump tax cut that created all those pass-through entities that let these real estate guys get these huge breaks that the calculations would benefit him in God knows how much, tens of millions. And then he's like, all right, I'm out. But but even he was too much of a wimp to really criticize it. What I'm also sick of are the ones who criticize him on the way out or once they're already out. Like we act like, oh, it's heroic, and I'm tired of doing that too. Jeff Flake and these other do something when you're there. Do something when you're actually still running, maybe for re-election, which is where I'll give Liz Cheney some credit. As much as I hate to give any Cheney family member credit,
sure,
she was still planning on being there, running for re-election. She lost in a primary. She didn't just do it because she was no longer running and leaving it. I'm sick of that shit. I really am. You're not. It's not courage.
Right.
But don't pretend you have courage when you
left
vote again and you suddenly speak out about who Trump really is when you're leaving. That's pathetic. You're as pathetic as everybody else, and I'm so tired of it. This bill is horrific in every way possible. Yeah,
and it's again, feature not a bug. This is about the great culling. Say what you will about Elon Musk's fading influence in the White House, but understand that the Peter Thiels of the world align themselves with the Henry Kissinger idea that there's a shit ton of useless eaters out there. Trump has said this directly about a relative's kid. Like, why do you keep this kid alive? You could buy yourself a nice condo in Florida.
Was it the one that had like a disability of some sort? Or
he was wheelchair bound. He was. I want to say he had cerebral palsy. But he was,
that's not too Hitler-esque, by the way.
No, not at all. Yeah, the passive eugenics aspect of it is well known in the Peter Thiel world, and Trump bought into that when Elon Musk showed up. And again, here's hoping that the rift that he managed to eke out between Musk and Trump right now will shave a little bit of support in this, especially on the House side of it. Once it has to go back to the House, because it adds I want to say $1 trillion more to the debt than the House version does. the Medicaid cuts are more stark and more, are more painful than the House version.
Yeah,
and
the
they
Senate used to be the
barely
place where they
squeaked that
calmed that
shit through.
stuff down.
Right.
Which
Now
is
it's the
what's
opposite.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
And
go ahead.
again, like, from your original home state, there's a great rep in the Louisville area, a Democrat, McGarvey is his name. I've met him before. I just happened to see something where he was talking about in some of these outer counties. And that's the thing. It's like, we care about their voters not dying, but they don't. I mean, here's McGarvey. He's in Louisville. People in Louisville will be fine. There's a number of hospitals there. But he was talking about people in these outer counties who, like, and he was doing the math on it. He's like, well, this hospital's closing. I can't remember the names of the hospitals. But so if this one closes, already, he's like, by my math, you're the next one over, you're what was it, like 35, you're 27 miles or on the road, you have to go 35 minutes away. Well, now they're closing that one too. So the next one is like 50 minutes away. So if you need that care immediately, you will die.
Yeah.
And these folks voted for this, which is just amazing to me. And most of them don't seem to realize. I guess Trump is losing votes among white working class voters, white voters without a college education. So I guess some are picking up on this now because his numbers are falling, but many are still supporting him. And again, their politicians who they voted for are literally like, it's like they're lining them up like lemmings to walk off the side of a hill. And we're the only ones, like a guy like McGarvey, speaking out about your family members are gonna die because of this.
Right. Again, you and I hear this through our ears, and our viewers, yours on your Substack, and please check out Cliff's Edge, the Substack, as well as the other channels. We hear this through our ears. But you really have to understand there is a huge chunk of these people that think there are too many people on the planet. They have fixated on this overpopulation number a long time ago, and they're never going to shake it. And all they look around and go, the poor people are a waste of food. And that's how they think. And it's not just billionaires and millionaires or even the upper crust of Louisville and Lexington and that surrounding area. It's the maggots themselves. It's the broke-ass West Virginia fuckers that don't have a pot to piss in that are like...
And they're going to be the ones that won't make it in the end. Right. They're the ones who worked in the coal mine, eat McDonald's for lunch, don't get any exercise, are stressed out all the time, like basically have every risk factor you can possibly imagine, are morbidly obese in many cases, and they're not making it to that hospital in time because it's closed. So they got to go to the next one. But they're still backing this bullshit, which just shows you how much you can manipulate somebody through hating other people, which again, one of the most brilliant quotes ever said, right, by LBJ. If you can get the lowest white man to think that he's above the highest black man, you can get his vote. And that's what LBJ, trying to describe George. I think he was explaining George Wallace. When he said that. And I mean, and they just, it's been proven again and again. And here's the thing, Hal, which is, I agree that there's an overpopulation problem. I agree that we're having too many people. The difference is, I don't think we should just kill actual living people. I think we should do this strange thing where we educate people about birth control, and where we give women control of their bodies so they don't have children they don't want to have.
Here's the thing. It's easier than that. There is no overpopulation problem. That is a 60s myth that was carried a long time ago. First of all, the Earth can support somewhere in the area of 11 to 12, 13 billion people on it without any major research. Even in the regions, it's really about war and resource, not the availability of resources themselves. That it's a peace problem, not a food problem. The other thing
is that we're not evolved enough. So I don't see China or India suddenly saying, "Hey, we're gonna take care of everybody." So I agree with you. If we had reached the Star Trek phase of our evolution, we have plenty of space. The problem is we're overpopulated because people are condensed in certain areas, and those areas sadly are run for the most part by autocratic governments, and therefore they're not going to give them any money.
And Trump favors those kind of people. This is a political problem. This is not a resource problem, and it never has been. The illusion of resources have largely been based on the assumption that oil is limited to certain places on the earth. It is the primary fuel for the engine of modern life until such time as it isn't. And during that window of human experience, that was the Fertile farmland what fertile farmland was to fucking Genghis Khan. Once you were able to find enough fertile farmland, or your population evened out for that area, or you weren't trying to claim population elsewhere, most areas pop up and balance to the amount around there just because the resources were what they are. Oil is the same issue. Once we move past oil, it's a completely different issue. Right now, though,
I mean, oil allows...
It's the political support for people like Trump that are the problem, and it's the shrugging off of the threat that's the problem. It's the Jill Stein and the uncommitted and all that kind of stuff going. Well, what I would call the fucking soft Thanos version of things, where when you bring it up, there are a lot of people in traffic, and not everybody's pulling their weight, and maybe Trump will clear the decks of some of those people, and that's who the independents.
I saw Jill Stein sitting at a table with Mike Flynn and Vladimir Putin, so I'm sure she's an honest broker.
True humanitarians.
She's a real humanitarian. She must really care about the environment as a Green Party member, as Mike Flynn and Vladimir Putin have proven they do. Vladimir Putin's amazing for the environment in Ukraine. So definitely I'm going to go vote for Jill Stein. I mean, I have no time for any of those fucking morons. So but I guess what my simple point here is, with those autocratic leaders, if we can do our, because there's plenty of space. Jesus, I mean, does anybody live in Wyoming? Beautiful place, by the way. Like, no people. But
lots of resources, lots of farmland, lot of the US.
But I mean, that's why I agree with you. If we had sane policies, but maybe going to some of these places, going to a lot of these places that do have too many people, and I don't know, maybe teaching some folks how to basically use birth control would be helpful in the short term until until we do one of two things: completely blow ourselves up so it doesn't matter anymore, or reach a stage of evolution where we actually care about other people enough to say, hey, we're not going to just look at the boundaries of this particular country. There's space over there. We can move people over there and they can live there happily because we have the resources, we have the land, and all of that.
Yeah,
didn't mean there is meta, but.
Right. No. I completely understand. I have been saying for a very long time to the when's the asteroid arrive crowd that it isn't going to end. Humanity is not going to end, kids. Go watch.
I don't think so either, but it's a fun joke to make.
I know, but what it does is it speaks to a certain level of nihilism that creates exhaustion around this. Like, well, if there's going to be inevitable humans, then the inevitable action of humans is awful. When it clearly isn't. It matters who runs things. It matters who we elect. Yeah. It matters who we put in charge. And your point about the Republicans makes that even more stark. That there can even be a mental coin flip amongst people. Even the most problematic Democrats aren't adding fucking $50,000 whale subsidies up from $10,000 so that they will sign off on a Medicaid cut in a state. By the way, even in states they're not a part of. Democrats are not for Medicaid cuts, largely because they will fuck up red states.
Well, because we're human beings.
Yes.
Again, it's not even just red states, as but you're right, it's red states, but it's also what I was saying earlier about McGarvey and Louisville. It's red counties. Louisville will be fine. Lexington will be fine. Those outer counties or people don't have a pot to piss in, as you put it, are screwed. And now the hospital is going to be twice as far away. Good luck. And they've been following all of the right-wing advice, which is own the libs, smoke, eat awfully, don't work out. Remember when Michelle Obama told your kids to eat healthy? Don't eat vegetables. Michelle Obama's black. You don't want to listen to what she says. I mean, it's like, it's exhausting, and yet here we are because we have some decency. That I lose my temper constantly at them and say horrible things. I admit it, but overall, most of these policies we're trying to pass help you by you being them. Most of it, I mean, again, we've gone through this so many times. The blue states are the net givers. The red states are the net takers from the federal government. You cut the federal government, guess who loses more when one gives more and one takes more? I think any of us can do that math.
Yeah, well, and right now we're in a position, because Democrats don't control the House, the Senate, or the White House, that we are like, sit back and watch the FAFO is our only actual the only thing we're actually capable of doing right now in response to this with limited amount. Like right now, the Democrats had read the entire bill. Like they ate up time reading the entire bill on the floor. The next thing they're going to do is once it gets onto the floor, it gets unlimited amendments, right? And they went the last time something like this happened, it was like 25 hours. Democrats are looking to go at least 48 hours to drag it through the week, and maybe in those amendments get some stuff added that might poison pill it for the House even more, right? But in the process, one of the things we hear about all the time is like, okay, well, you can't just be against somebody, you got to be for something. Okay, first of all, yeah, you can. If there are a lot of people, police are technically against crime. They don't have to be for what you do with the rest of your time during the day. They can just be against you murdering somebody. That's a functional use of time. They don't need to go to parks and help clean up the place. There are other people to do that shit. You can absolutely be focused on the threat in front of you. There's a reason for that. Secondly, there is a movement right now that has been brought up, and ironically, I think in some ways, it's been brought up around Mamdani in New York, called the abundance movement in Democratic circles. This the idea that Mamdani was abundance pilled, according to the Washington Post, and that the abundance will be the Democratic push forward.
I gotta admit, I'm up on a lot of Democratic language, but I don't know what the hell that means, to be honest with you.
So the nation has been calling it abundance mania, and there was a book, I think Ezra Klein wrote this book called Abundance, which is a ripoff of another book called Abundance from about. Yeah, no, it didn't. It got into Democratic circles because of Ezra Klein and his attempt to go like, hey, if you want to win over some of those independents you lost, this is how you do it. And in many ways, it would be sort of the Democratic equivalent of abundance themed preaching in evangelical churches. The Joel Ostening of being a helpful, good Christian, which is also God.
Theme parks too.
Yes,
and
right.
Abundance playgrounds, and maybe. And,
built on toxic waste dumps. Yeah, built on toxic waste dumps, like in Fletch lives. Right.
Kids always want to play there.
Right. So there is this the nation is sort of like against it for obvious reasons, but the idea is.
What can you tell me? What? Okay, go ahead. You're telling me now. I think because I have no idea what the hell it is.
Okay, so the primary thing is it's rooted in build, like taking the drill baby drill from Trump on that and turning it into housing. Build. That we got to do all the things that Donald Trump wants to do to remove environmental limitations and stuff on drilling for oil or gas. We're gonna have to, because of city councils being what they are, because of environmental rules being what they are, that to build enough housing to catch up with everything, we're going to have to ease some of those things and basically lasso some of the same kind of mentality. If Americans are okay with the drill baby drill thing, and we can move away from oil and go, okay, build baby build as a way of doing it. And the idea that between AI, automation, and other stuff, we can better the lives of Americans cheaper while not having to cut services for people. We will just grow on that efficiency instead of hiding and going, almost being pitiful in the face of Trump's, bullshit Santa Claus story. Democrats need to come up with one of their own that's actually achievable. And one of the people they brought up was around Mamdani, and here's how they described the description of it was the debate has been fueled by a recent book, Abundance by Ezra Klein, and it argues that having embraced so many complex rules and time-consuming procedures that we're slowing down production. And one of the things that we need to do is ease environmental rules. It says they have an answer: cutting back on the environmental reviews, strict zoning, and labor rules, and other obstacles that prevent government from efficiently building, fixing, and fostering things that people want, from housing to energy. And there is they are attaching it in this Washington Post story to Mamdani, which I find weird because it's actually what Newsom presented in California because of the extraordinary nature of how expensive housing is in California and how hard it is to build, especially in some of these zones.
You build some more housing. I mean, whether you call it abundance or whatever else, if you supply and demand, if you have too much of a demand, obviously, and housing on the East Coast and West Coast has gotten incredibly expensive. Well, especially if you have space, you build more. lowers.
Right.
I mean, that kind of makes common sense, right?
Yep. And so the idea is that Democrats in their languaging should focus on this abundance mentality. What's possible in modern technology? You could provide more features, like telemedicine, for example, which was completely a Democratic ad to Medicaid, Medicare, and the VA that came during Obama and has grown since. That's going to be an increasingly you can increase the services you're giving while lowering the costs across the board, and then you can save those costs for rural hospitals and the like. You don't have to lose those in the process. You can have smaller urgent care places because more patients are handled through telemedicine and those kind of things. These kind of balancing acts, and the focus on smart regulations, not cutting regulations or gutting regulations or lowering regulations, but saying we need smart regulations, ones that are.
I've thought that for a long time. That
agreed, up with the times, all that stuff.
Stuff is garbage, and when most of the time, when we started sort of bowing to Reagan's attack on regulations, and since then, we never made it human. We never said those are the regulations that make sure you don't get harmed, you don't lose an arm or a leg or die on the job. Those are the regulations that make
kids'
sure
pajamas aren't incendiary, right?
Right. Like most regulations are not these sort of like ridiculous, mundane things. They actually are important, but as somebody who runs small businesses, I have to say, yes, I've seen some regulations that are ludicrous, that involve too much paperwork, and there's simply no doubt that we can be smarter about it in certain areas. Yeah,
and that's an important point to bring up, because what happens is if you don't do something about those things, the very obvious ones, what is effectively the common sense fixes on regulations, what it allows people like Donald Trump to do is come in, say something that is self-evidently true, but then take it to an absurd level.
Right.
They get to come in and say, there are situations, anecdotally, where
they can demagogue, is what you're saying.
Yes, they can use that to demagogue all the regulations in an entire area of environmental, energy,
and that's
all
what
that kind of
Reagan
stuff.
did so effectively, or you could say destructively to America.
So, and the same thing is true of immigration and crime. So, being afraid because of the slacktivist side of our ledger to talk openly about immigration as a normal issue, just as simply like funding a border, making sure it's safe, making sure there's a pathway for citizens, like being scared to have the hard conversation about it because you're afraid the slacktivists will come for you and primary you or do any of that shit because you're not.
There's a couple issues. Crime is also
another one. Yes,
I'm sorry. We need to have it does actually happen. People actually get harmed. They need to be. They need protection, or society will break down because people will take it into their own hands. So,
and when you don't talk about it, when you don't deal with it, what you have is when the conversation finally comes around, it ends up being about defund the police instead of fund mental health services, right? We as the country, what I would argue that, for example, the conversation around defund the police was actually a conversation about bring back mental institutions. That there was a thing where Reagan gutted them in the 80s, and there has been a clear difference in the homeless people that are on the street and recidivism amongst the mentally incapable criminals out there, habitual sex offenders and murderers.
Services. I mean, I've actually worked a lot in this whole area.
Yes.
There's such a clear connection that, again, if you use just the base level intelligence for preventative measures around addiction around
healthcare. Like if you had because look, again, you take something that is fundamentally obvious to people's eyes, and then if you don't do something with that, if you don't deal with it, then someone like Trump will come along and use that as an example of how they want to. The reason they don't want to deal with it, the other side doesn't want to deal with this, is because it's their voters, or because they want it, or they're for the murders and the violence and the rapes and whatever. And that's what he said. It's exactly the language he used, and he was able to run with it.
Like the system's broken. Just to say something quickly, then they can go and they can come up with their, they can find their one case or two cases where someone who's undocumented killed somebody.
Right.
And even though the crime rate and the violent crime rate is much lower among undocumented workers, which those of us who are educated enough know, than actual American citizens, well, they can demagogue those one or two things because people already have those one or two times it happens because people already have a sense. It feels like
it also leaves.
broken.
And it leaves
You know?
Democrats in this position of having to be on the defensive for the rest of the immigrant community instead of going, well, obviously those are the people we want to get out of here, and saying, by the way, Obama did, Biden did, Clinton did.
Right.
This is every president does those kind of removals.
Into a 4th grade classroom and freaking knock the door down basically and yank a girl out of there. Right.
That's right. But then, what they do is they create the illusion where, somebody like Kilmar Obrego Garcia or somebody like that gets snatched up, and they are able to, because of Lake and Riley and somebody else. There are a bunch of people, by the way, on the right, and even I would argue in the Jill Stein, libertarian, whatever middle, who think that Kilmar Obrego Garcia killed Lake and Riley. They think this. They really do think that's who he is. That's why they needed to send him to this. They don't know that
people
because
think everything these days. So,
but
I'm
it was
not even
because
shocked.
those issues were conflated, and they use this idea that and Homan uses this. He says it all the time on Fox News of the Democrats are okay with the open borders because they want this violence or whatever, and by putting us on our heels. And not having an honest conversation about just humanity being humanity. And anytime you have a system that provides healthcare services or whatever, you have to make sure that the fraudsters like Marjorie Taylor Greene don't roll into the PPP program and take everything for themselves, right?
If they're not too busy insider trading with Palantir.
Exactly. Yeah, right. That's it. We need to, and that's, by the way, this is why Democratic bills are so fucking thick and Republican bills are so fucking slim. The big, beautiful bill that they're passing, by the way, is hundreds of little ones that have very few rules and a lot of loopholes.
It allows more surveillance and stuff that has nothing to do with the budget.
Right, but the reason
crap.
Democrats why the text is so dense in Democratic bills is because we're aware that there are fuckers out there like Donald Trump who will hire 10 lawyers or 3 accountants to sit there and go, all right, where are the holes in this that I can thread through because it says if this case, then this case, and if means 100 things. Right? The categorization is too flimsy to hold me to it. And by the time they come around, even if I am made to pay it back 5, 7, 10 years from now, the interest alone versus the fine I would have to pay in an honest mistake that I was allowed to bullshit because of this loophole will be worth it. Okay, one of the examples. Elon Musk doesn't take a salary. One of the reasons he doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't take a salary from his company. Tesla
get paid in capital gains and get paid
and
in shares.
They borrow money. They borrow his, using their $1 billion valuation. They borrow his salary from a bank, and then the interest they pay on that borrowing, they write that off, and it's still a liability while it's on the books. And they write that part of it off. So effectively, he lives off the debt that they have, and therefore does not get paid an income on like everybody else does. He doesn't get. There's no W-2 situation. There's no CEO salary for him. He's living off that debt, and they write off the debt, so they get to write off his salary.
He's
as
doing what
debt.
a lot of these private equity guys do.
Yes, and so and that's why, by the way, that's why Republicans hate regulations. Because that's the kind of stuff you fix in that. It's why they hate the IRS, because those are the people who look and go, wait a second, that's not how this is supposed to work. And they bring it to somebody's attention, and either the law changes or they proceed with the heart of the law and go after them for being
a classic example is when Joe Biden passed, which I can't remember which of the budget or economic bills it was, that set a minimum rate for corporations. So they no
50%.
longer, no matter what games they played, accounting games, this and that, you had to, was it 25% or 20?
15.
It was one of those. I think
it's 15.
Mm-hmm. I wish it'd been higher, but
yep.
Hell, a lot of these guys are paying nothing. So,
yes.
15 is a huge improvement on 0.
Yeah.
And that's the games they all play.
Mm-hmm.
And the private equity stuff, of course, Warren Buffett said that a million times about how he had a lower tax rate than his secretary because he got, even the way that it's done, even though he's a pretty liberal guy, he was paid in capital gains. Well, the capital gains rate ever since Reagan, again, it all goes back, to there is significantly lower than the income tax rate. It shouldn't be. You would think if you worked for your money as opposed to investing money that often mommy and daddy gave you, the money you worked for would be taxed at the very least at an even rate to the capital gains. Probably should be taxed lower. But no, that's not how we do things. So the motivation for these guys is to get that debt on the books, as you said, is to pay themselves in capital gains or find other loopholes. I mean, it's the tricks they play are ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me show you as part of this list, if I may, of here we go. This is some of the tax provisions that are in here. And see if these sound familiar if you've been paying attention to any of Trump's shit over the last few years. Depreciation allowance for qualified production property, allowing immediate deductibility of 100% of the cost of certain new factories and improvements. Okay, this includes his book company that Don Jr. set up, which is just a little fucking warehouse where they cut pages and then they send them to China to be bound. Foreign tax credit. This one stands out. Private school scholarships. Tax credit for contributions made to organizations that provide money for children to attend private schools. That's exactly what Weisselberg went to fucking jail for. That was part of the lawsuit against Trump, was the fact that he paid for his kids to go to school as an as untaxed compensation, along with the car and the apartment. Okay.
Now we're just going to go ahead and legalize it.
Right. Expensing of certain depreciable business assets. Increased dollar limitations.
Trump's first tax bill made it so that you could use money you'd put aside that grew tax-free in 529 college funds you could pay for private schools with. So they already gone a good chunk of the way on that.
Right.
Now they're finishing it off.
Right. So the expensing of certain depreciable business assets. That would be cars. That would be that car that he gave him. You could also write off whatever the tax would be on that. So even if the person gets one, you could give them cash for the payment. Like, that's what the weasel words in this do. He's legalizing all the things he was busted for fraud for doing.
Right.
Yeah. So there was
Isn't
another
that great?
one. Yeah.
It's like, these are all the things I did that are illegal. So I guess to keep up with that, soon he's going to have to make paying off porn stars legal, insurrection legal. He'll have to make sexual assault legal. I mean, Trump's got a lot of bases to cover to make sure he can remain on the right side of the law.
Yeah. There's a change to the accounting practice for certain residential construction contracts. Gee, I don't think that's going to be narrowly threaded just for him. And then there was, let's see, there's a couple of these that are particularly weird. But increase in deduction. Yeah, here you go. Increase in deduction rate for certain Alaskan whaling captains. That was the one I was pointing out before. The provision, which was added to be able to win the support of Elisa Murkowski, would allow $50,000 deduction for whaling-related expenses, up from $10,000. And then there are a bunch of changes to what you can write off, and the threshold for what you even have to report. The reporting threshold for payments for independent contractors and other payees, so that more people can work below the line, can work under the table, is essentially what it is. Then instead of it being 500, it can be 1,000, or instead of 1,000, it can be. Think of it this way.
In other words, what you have to report in for like 1099s, is that what they're saying? Yes,
and also what someone like Matt Gaetz could pay someone via Venmo before it raising the attention as a service.
Right, because I know now the limit is 600. You don't have to file a 1099, so I guess they're going to move that up. Right, of course they would, because again, that all adds up. And some of these guys that hire all these small contractors, well, that's money that adds up.
And hookers, because that the
true.
cost
they probably
point
calculated the exact price of a prostitute in where is she from?
In Florida, wherever in the Panhandle, in Floribama, and or go like that plus a flight to Georgia and the cost of a couple of ecstasy pills.
He's just not nearly as cool as former Cincinnati mayor, and may he rest in peace, Jerry Springer, who paid with a personal check in Kentucky, your state, across the line. Paying with a personal check probably wasn't his best move, but hey, it worked out okay for him in life.
Right. The one of the income deductions, the business income deduction, is now 20%. It's a permanent 20% business income deduction, which is a huge tax cut for like corporations, especially the biggest ones. Oh my Lord. Right. And then a full expensing of new capital investments. So anything you even qualify as capital. And in Donald Trump's world, Cliff, if you and I wanted to start a business where we were, consulting, we could buy a yacht to take our consultation clients out on, because we could prorate the cost of that instead of a building. Hey, if we can buy an office, if we can rent an office, why can't we own a piece of property?
In my office.
Right, and that's where we do all of our meetings.
I already find the amount of things that you can write off that as business expenses that you would have to do, whether you had a business or not, to be relatively absurd. Mm-hmm. I can write off all of my haircuts.
Yes.
I'm sure you know that. I mean, you don't get your haircut.
That's right. I'm sure I cut my own. I cut my own hair.
There you go. Well,
I pull it in front and I go snip, and then that's it.
I never understood that. Like, I'm sort of like, I can write that off, but wouldn't I have to get haircuts, or would I just become like, Tom Hanks in like Castaway? If there were no write-offs for business, I guess I would just look like that instead.
Well, if you are, and also we're on camera. So the other thing too is, if you are in the realm of where business presentation is an order of magnitude higher, meaning that you have to look a certain way or you have to carry forward. Like as an entertainer, quite frankly, I have show clothes and then I have regular clothes. And my show clothes for different stuff, the Nerd Halen clothes that I wear, which are very specific, or my stuff that I wear for the jam or with my band is a specific costuming and stuff. And so that's the distinction I make. I'm not going to write off every fucking pair of jeans I have. But Trump would, because he lives in those dopey blue suits with the red tie. So effectively, he's writing it off like he's a coal miner writing off coveralls. And
there's a way that he paid, 2 different years, I think $750 in taxes.
Right. That's how it happens.
Arrive in a place like that.
Yep. Yeah. So
it's a ridiculous system already. It's only been getting more ridiculous for 30 or 40 years, with pushback every time we elect a Democrat who's been able to raise the top rate again, who's been able to set a corporate minimum like what we talked about, and do some other things that just make common sense. Unpaid family medical leave, because it's all that we could get through under Clinton, and and since then haven't been able. We do all of these kinds of things, and then they just come in and do this garbage again. Yeah, where they find. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, this has got to be part of the pushback in how we talk about the deregulation, and Democrats can't be afraid. Can't feel. Obama cut more regulations than Trump did. He was just more selective about them. They upped more too. They put more in because they replaced bad, out of date ones with functional ones. And so what we got to do, I do think there is a languaging issue that Democrats can take advantage of.
Oh my God, there always is. We don't humanize it. When it comes to regulations, when it comes to immigration, when it comes to anything you're talking about, this is why I was trying to make it human with what Lisa Murkowski is actually doing when she's voting to cut Medicaid.
Right.
We want to be like, well, she's cutting Medicaid and there'll be .whatever% less money available for, and then people's eyes glaze over. Tell them, if your grandmother needs this money and is on Medicaid, your grandmother will die. I mean, I'm sorry. I hate that we have to say it that way, but we do. If your brother, can be in this situation, but if they determine now, if you don't know your rights and under birthright citizenship, they can deport him. I mean, we need to actually make it human and bring it down to people's level. And it's the same thing with regulations that protect people from death and injury and discrimination and poisoning. And, sure, let's get rid of food inspection. That'd be great for all of us. Well, you know what? That's a regulation. And it's one of the reasons we don't die for no reason. I mean, these are things that we need to explain to people, so we don't just use the word regulations, which just, again, sounds like a burden. Sounds like something terrible, as opposed to what some of these regulations actually are.
Well, that's why you have to say safety regulations primarily, which is what most regulations are. Most regulations are safety regulations. The other ones are construction related, as far as like pacing regulations. You can't, if you're building someplace, if you build too quickly across a shoal or something like that, there's a chance the land will slip away over the course of the next 30 years. And you have a situation like that building that collapsed in Miami if you don't have regulations around that. So is it an emergency safety regulation? No, it's a long-term safety regulation. But thinking of it in terms of smart regulations or shifting from expendables to renewables in terms of fuel is a smart regulation because we're building towards the jobs of the future and that kind of thing. But primarily, most of the time we got to do is whenever Republicans are bringing up we got to cut regulations, the Democrats have to respond to why are they trying to cut safety regulations? You're cutting safety regulations. You're trying to stop and always add the word safety to the top of it because we take it for granted. We take regulations like safety regulations is sort of redundant when we talk about it because we're thinking for our ears and our side. And when we talk about that, we leave out the explanation because you should know the jargon. You should know how we talk about these things. Regulations obviously are balanced and good because you need these. Otherwise, people will have flammable pajamas and crap steel and bad support.
Kids
but we know this.
Basically eating toys and dying and
what they hear is regulations mean you're trying to slow down business because you're a commie and they want the Chinese to catch up with us. Honest to God, that's what they hear.
Let them define it that way for years without responding.
And we need to
respond by
safety regulations is the phrase.
I would say
smart regulations everywhere else.
And if you can give one or two examples, particularly of people who've been harmed when certain regulations did not exist, do that. Humanize the issue.
That's
people,
right.
So they understand that there's a real cost here. This isn't just get that out of the way so we can create a business quicker. Well, you know, somebody may end up buried under rubble because you get rid of that.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when the Republicans talk about abstract regulations, when they talk about we need to cut regulations, like Democrats need to stop trying to push back on the regulatory powers or whatever, and just go. Oh, great. Now this asshole wants lead back in children's toys.
Exactly.
Like, don't go anywhere near that because they're not an honest broker of this.
Play their game.
Right. Stop talking about regulations, letting them misuse the word and you trying to normalize the word. We fight so much for the fucking word itself and not for the actual values that they imbue. This is why so many people will argue about socialism more than they will applaud the creation of Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It is it is a whoops. Sorry, Tara was calling in and I bounced her. Can you have her call back real quick?
Well, that's kind of mean.
No, I was just I clicked on the wrong button.
I'm just having fun with you.
But there she is. Okay, hold on. So before we bounce over to her, hi, see you in the background there, Tara. Hi. I want to remind everybody, Cliff's Edge, both on YouTube and, of course, on Substack and elsewhere.
Substack, can I just make the one quick little announcement?
The announcement, yes.
So so the Substack is bluamp.co, and we were lucky that we kind of grew, and a few things I did, like this crazy long live streaming that Hal was a part of for 12 hours, went viral. And so we decided we're going to take the opportunity this is afforded us and stop just talking the talk and walk the walk because I'm tired of billionaires and institutions not doing anything. So we've so far put aside, let's call it 5 figures for creators funds. And so for folks, we're going to put up a link at bluamp.co. And for people that we already have a few people who've applied for it, but we're going to start giving out grants and using the fact that our letter goes out to 450,000 people who read it to promote smaller creators, medium-sized creators, because we need to create an indie media ecosystem as far as I've seen it for a long time now. I'm tired of waiting for the people that say they're going to do it because they're not. So I can't do it on the level of a billionaire, but you know what? If enough people support this and support these folks and it starts growing and more people give money to it and whatever, we're creating a fund. And as I said, we've already put 5 figures of our own money into it. And we'll probably put more so that we can we're going to give out our first grant this week. So
great.
I thought that was important because I think we need to look at what we're doing as a community and as an ecosystem and stop fighting a war with both arms and one leg tied behind our back as right-wing media dominates us. So there you go.
Right. And Tara, we hear you in the background. I think I nominate both Tara and Boston Brian for that kind of support. I'm just saying, throw that their way.
I like both of them,
that.
so I'm gonna
Yeah.
I will make sure they get copies of this to fill out, and we can move forward hopefully.
I think that's a beautiful idea. You're awesome. I'll let you go, but I wanted that is enormous, by the way. Blue Amp on Substack.
Blueamp.co.
Blueamp.co. So, spread that around. And at some point, I would guess you'll maybe fundraise crowdsource fundraise to
We're going to do
pass those
that.
on?
We're going to crowdsource fundraise. We're going to go to other big creators, who are out there, who are doing really well, and say, please join us in this
Kick
effort.
in.
Sorry, if a little pressure has to be used, but
Sure.
I'm tired of everybody talking about it and just us staring at this problem, not doing it. So, as they always say, I'm doing it.
Yeah,
So I'm
awesome.
tired of waiting.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Anything you
thank
need,
you.
any
We
way
gotta
I can
do
help,
something, right?
let me know. Yep.
I will. Just by letting me publicize it here, but I'll let you know other ways. Hopefully, you can help publicize it too, and we can get the word out to as many people as we can. So,
I insist. Awesome. Thanks so much, brother. I think one of the things we've really touched on today, though, that I think it's really crucial is how Democrats need to respond on a personal level to what to the lassoing of common sense and normality and being misused by Republicans. This idea that we need to cut regulations, if we throw on, why do you want to cut safety regulations? To every response, never giving them an inch to go, oh, we just mean tax stuff or whatever. Well, then say so, because it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like you want lead in kids' toys again, and you need to tell us why. That's the
right.
That's how we have to talk about
safety
this.
regulations. You say, do you like lead in your children's toys? Do you like car accidents? Do you like people being poisoned by food? Do you like people
E.
going
coli.
into shock for the water they drink? Hospitals making mistakes because, do you like, are all these things better for your life? Because if they're not, you want some regulations.
Yep.
Safety regulation.
Agreed. And we need to, if we see an issue that is got some patent flaws to it or issues to it, whether it's homelessness, crime, the border, those kind of things, we have to be willing to talk honestly about the parts we can fix, because if we are too afraid to address those things for fear of the fringes of our own party, it allows the Republicans and people like Trump to roll in and do the most egregious, horrifying things with them. You just cede that ground to them to do the most terrible things. So appreciate it, Cliff. You're amazing. And
you're awesome. Thank you for having me on, buddy.
I do what I can, and I gotta say, big applause from the chat and everybody that you're doing this, and I think it's terrific. And like I said, any way I can help. If we want to do like a fundraiser show for Blue Amp or something like that, I'm down. I will be in your neck of the woods in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm going on a vacation next week, but after I get back, I think I may do another 12-hour live stream like what we did before. Get you in here, and where we'll do it. We'll do it as a fundraiser.
Yeah.
I'm going to put a donate button up for it, and I will be fully transparent so people will see where the money is going. And if they come and they get paid subscriptions, we haven't decided how much yet, but a certain percent of our paid subscriptions are going to go to this fund too. So come by, become an unpaid subscriber, become a paid subscriber if you want to support it. But people will know the money's going places. People will see in our promotion of people and in our giving them grants that it's happening. And what I'm hoping is others will pay it forward. It'll create a sort of cultural situation where other big creators will jump in. Other people will see what we're doing and see that this is necessary. That we want to fight fascism. We want to have a democracy. We need to be doing everything possible. This seemed like an easy first step, so I decided to take it. So here we are.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you again very, very soon. All right.
Yep.
Peace out.
Take care.
There he goes.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Schechter. And then I will be bringing in the lady of the hour, the wonderfully talented Tara Dublin, who indeed does rock. USA.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, what's up? Hey, I want all of the grant money. I need all of the grant money.
Yeah, I get it.
So in the week that has elapsed since I last saw you, which feels like about 11 years, if you recall, last Monday I had to be on early because I had traffic court online, and
Uh-huh.
then I also had a swollen thing in my head because
Yep.
I had a tooth infection. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things happened to me last week. First of all, in the good news realm, I did the online traffic court and my case was dismissed because I don't know if people know this, but traffic cops very rarely show up for traffic
Right.
court.
Yep.
So should you ever get a ticket from a traffic cop, a speeding ticket, a red light ticket, which is what I got, don't just pay it. Fight it. If you feel you were, I mean, even if you did it, the traffic cop's probably not going to show up. So that saved me $300, which was great. But then I had to go to the dentist.
Scofflaw.
And tomorrow, well, I'm just saying, if you're going to fight the man, fight him right. And then, because the city doesn't need my $300. But anyway, then I went to the dentist. And guess what he told me?
Uh-huh.
He has to pull a tooth out of my head tomorrow. A tooth is coming out
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. And then behind that tooth is a tooth that needs a cavity filled. So that's $550 out of Tara's pocket right before rent is due, my friends. Yay. So that's why I need a grant. Besides the fact that I'm out here fighting democracy, is I'm trying to survive like everybody else. So, hey, chat friends, if you have a buck or two, if you have a buck or two you want to kick into the Tara Tooth Fund, I'd appreciate it so much because nobody needs an additional $550 is basically what it's going to cost me out of pocket between all the things. And they also don't have nitrous. And so I have to take like Valium before they numb me up. And I might be aware of them yanking a tooth out of my head. It's all a nightmare. But anyway, if you have a spare buck or five, if you could kick it over to my Venmo so I could pay for this because dental insurance is a racket and I don't have it, that'd be swell. And I'd appreciate you so much until I get that sweet, sweet grant money. Whoo! All right. Anyway, how are you?
I'm good. The irony is I don't know how you're not on Medicaid at this point.
Okay, so, well, I mean,
for real.
You mean
yeah.
Okay, so I have your basic Obamacare. Thanks, Obama.
Gotcha.
I have the basic Obamacare that covered my visit to urgent care last Sunday when I woke up with the pain in the swollen face. And the basic Obamacare also gave me not just a free urgent care visit, but some free amoxicillin and free painkillers, which I didn't really enjoy. I don't enjoy the narcotics. I don't like the way they feel, but they helped. And as did the antibiotics. They did their job, and I'm grateful for that.
Sure.
It does not cover dental stuff, though. Your teeth may be in your head, but healthcare does not, your health insurance does not cover dental work. You have to purchase separate dental insurance. Most of the time, people don't need that unless there's an emergency. And I will also say that your basic dental insurance doesn't cover a whole lot. If you're paying out, which I used to have back in the day where I was earning more money, it was like $75 a month, and I never needed it because once it covered like my initial exam and my initial cleaning and my initial x-rays. Super. Beyond that, it's like, okay, well, we'll take 10% off this $1,000 bridge we have to put in or whatever.
Right.
So I'm going to posit that dental insurance is somewhat of a racket. Most dental places, if they're reputable, okay, so the basic Obamacare here would have allowed me to get examined by literally the worst dentist ever on Yelp, who is located in the worst strip mall in the worst part of Southeast Portland, and he's the only occupant of that strip mall.
Sure.
Also, and again, I do not disparage. If you're a person who came to this country to seek your fortune, you're welcome. I hope you prosper. All the Yelp reviews said the same thing, which is that nobody, and I mean nobody in the office, spoke English as a first language, and it created difficulties with communication. I personally would not roll xenophobic, but what it came down to was it was a painful, awful, unclean place. I could deal with a lot of things, but not unclean when you're putting stuff in my mouth.
Yeah.
I'm Jewish. I like it clean. You should all demand cleanliness, by the way. Of any as a
Gentile, I favor cleanliness as well, especially in medical and dental procedures. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know that it's
I'm just saying things should be, boiled and clean and pristine and should not carry
Sure.
disease before it
Yeah,
touches
a
you.
baseline frontier medicine, sure.
I'm just saying I shouldn't have to take a swig of whiskey before you take a tooth out of my mouth. I'm just saying.
Right.
So anyways, I'm not gonna go there is the point. And
Yeah.
one of my best friends
Gotcha.
for the last 20 years, she was like, my dentist is wonderful. Go see him. And she wasn't wrong. And what he is charging apparently is less than the national average, according to people who are trolling me on
Sure.
Twitter. You think I'm a scofflaw grifter who just sits here and tries to get money from people without making any sort of an effort to support myself, which is inaccurate, MAGA trollers. So anyway, I would not make a plea to the internet if I wasn't in a situation where I had to do that. I would love to cover all of the shit. However, I don't know if people know this, but being a freelance writer is not the lucrative job you think it is. And a MAGA person.
Yeah, in this day and age, I don't think anybody thinks that. Uh-huh.
I don't know what people think about people who are on the internet like we are. People like they all thought we were paid to go to the DNC. No, we were not.
Right. Yeah.
No. I paid more for a hotel room than I paid in rent. Right? We all paid out of pocket to go there.
Right.
And so one MAGA troll used some thing. It was like a whole bunch of letters, but one of them was A to describe me, and apparently it stands for something about affluent liberal women. And I'm like, if you think I'm affluent, you're even dumber than most of the other people in the cult. So anyway, the whole point being, if you can afford dental insurance, great. But what I would say is, please learn from me and make an appointment at the dentist. Just something, get in there, let them see what the lay of the land is.
Sure.
You might not be aware. If you're not having pain or there's nothing going on, or you just you probably haven't been in a while.
This is our
just make the
regular
appointment.
Please go. Tara, get your asshole checked warning that she's got to give as well. All Orify.
I'm telling you what.
Find a well-paid stranger to put some fingers in there to make sure everything's okay.
I'm just saying, if there's nothing else I have learned from my Jewish mother, is that you need to see a specialist. But anyway, I will always tell people, tell my fellow breast owners, go get your mammograms, go get your colonoscopies, go get your take care of yourself. That's one of your biggest jobs is to take care of yourself. Even if Republicans don't want you to, they're clearly trying to kill us all.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, anyway, in the interest of community, I just wanted to share what's happening because I'm a real human being going through real human shit at a time where we're all going through some shit. And there's that. And so while all of that, and I just wanted to bring people up to speed because people were curious about what was going on with the tooth and the other stuff. And so there it all is. And I'm wearing my USA shirt because I'm seeing stuff. I don't know what you're saying. I understand it's shitty times. We'll get into that. But one thing that I'm seeing, and I don't know if you are, is that people are saying to stay indoors on July 4th and not go out there and not protest and not gather and not have a cookout or a picnic or a barbecue and don't shoot off fireworks and just don't acknowledge that it's July 4th because what do we have to celebrate? And I say, fuck that. I say, fuck that. I say, stand up for your country is what I say.
Yeah.
I say this is our country and nobody.
Right.
Nobody.
That's how they take over. That's how they take over symbols. That's how they take over language. Because you cede that ground. That's for fuck's sake. One of the greatest OKs ever done on film was from Eddie Murphy. And I'll be goddamn if I allow people to turn that into a white supremacist symbol because everybody's like, oh, they're using it now. No, they don't get to do that. It'll be even more irritating when we're standing there at the cookout speaking openly as Americans. If they're all like, my free speech, then you got to listen to my shit too, buddy. And you've got right. and you're like, what do you care about the flag? I care about it more than you do. Prove me wrong.
That's right. That's right.
You don't get
right. And you were at the DNC, same as me. And one of the prevailing messages, and we heard it every night. Republicans do not have a trademark on patriotism.
No.
Republicans do not have a trademark on the flag. They do not own us. They do not own our patriotism. They do not own the flag. It belongs to all of us. And if you look, and one of my favorite images that I took away from the DNC, and I tweeted it repeatedly and I shared it everywhere, including this morning. At the Republican National Convention, they held up signs that said mass deportation now. Mm-hmm. At the DNC, we held up signs that said USA, USA, USA.
Yep.
That's what we did. When they did the when all of the delegates stood up and they did the count to do the official nomination, it was a very quiet and boring process at the RNC where Mike Johnson was like, all right, well, we're going to have decorum during the roll and everyone's going to sit in their seats and answer with decorum and decorum. And then there's like there's a super cut of that somewhere on YouTube and him doing that. And then the next one is the guy at the DNC who was like, Georgia, how do you vote? And it was Little John going, oh!
Yeah, right.
Awesome. And we fucking partied during our roll call because it was awesome. We embraced the patriotic theme every single night because Democrats are the true patriots, because we're the ones trying to preserve our democracy while Republicans are doing everything they can to shred it and then into a fun mist. And we're seeing it right now. Any Republican defending this big bullshit bill is done. They get primaried. Any Democrat who voted to move it along, just bad. And like, what the fuck is wrong with John Fetterman? I don't know. But it's just like, just what the Republicans are doing is actively trying to kill us. They are in the action of taking away not just all of our norms, but our lives. That's the bottom line. And the ableist bullshit, like, well, you know, able-bodied people shouldn't get Medicaid. Fuck you. You don't know anybody's life. And our government is not supposed to bully us, threaten us, or take anything from us. The only thing they get from us is our tax money, which they put back into taking care of us. That's how this country's supposed to go. We the people, right? They are supposed to provide for the common defense and promote the general welfare. That is in the preamble to the Constitution. If they can't do that, they shouldn't have that job. And I'm continuing to demand of Democrats, hey, when you're in chambers and you have everybody together, make your Republican colleagues stand up and declare on the record that they've chosen loyalty to Donald Trump over America, and then demand they resign their seats because they're now serving a dictator, not their constituents. Nobody voted for you to kill them. I mean, MAGA thinks they voted for a bunch of things that they didn't vote for, and they're slowly learning. Some of them are like, well, I didn't want this. I don't want to lose my health care. I don't want to lose my Medicaid. I need my retirement. I need this and I need that. And there's some pushback, not enough pushback, but slowly but surely, there are Republicans Rand Paul stood up and said, people will die from this bill. People who voted for Republicans will die. When Rand Paul is making sense, we are in bizarro times. Well, he's still a Russian asset, and I still can't stand him, and I'm not saying it's a good thing.
This is the lassoing of language.
That peeks out, right?
This is not about him eking out a little bit of truth that he actually believes. This is about the lassoing of truth that we leave on the field. That by not addressing it in our own way, or being afraid to touch on it because of a left flank attacks, which is how most of this shit happens, you leave this reality for everybody to stare at on the ground, and they'll pick it up and turn it into something god awful. And that's what he does. Rand Paul isn't anti-war any more than Candace Owens is, any more than fucking Megyn Kelly is. What they are is pro-Russian interests, and that includes Iran. That so much so that they have flip-flopped on this kind of like evangelical ideological line about supporting Israel until Jesus can kill everybody, that they've been running on since Swagger, essentially. So the idea that these guys are right some of the time, it's less about them, using the kind of standard propaganda line of 10% truth and 90% lies. And as long as you have that 10% truth, you can dangle that in front of everybody anecdotally and act like you're in the moral right. That 10% is not about the 10% they have taken. We've got to stop this idea that they're saying things that are true. They're not. They're taking truths that are laying around that are nonpartisan. There are no partisan issues. There are only partisan solutions. And if we act like even talking about the issue is partisan in some way, what we are doing is ceding the control of that issue to the worst among us. And everybody who was afraid to push for like rational immigration reform for the last 20 fucking years is largely responsible for 4-year-olds getting kicked out of the country who have fucking cancer. Because we stood down because we were so afraid of being accused of racism or whatever it was, you know, or being primaried by our own inside party folks or whatever, that we just went, I can't go anywhere near that issue. I will be perceived intentionally, by the way, perceived by people who are either motivated by malice, who are, either financially benefiting from the system that they hope drags on, whether it's people who pay workers under the table or any of this shit, or who are financially paid to gin up bullshit argument on one side so that the other side can throw a bit in its mouth and ride it across the finish line. I am so fucking tired of this, of jargon controlling the conversation, because every time that happens, we end up giving the Supreme Court to the Republicans. We end up giving the issue of immigration to them. We end up ignoring every success. If people had cheered for the creation of S-chip and SNAP the way they are decrying its removal right now under the Republicans, we wouldn't be in this shit. We wouldn't have the Chenks and the Annas and those fuckers telling everybody Democrats don't do anything right and there's no difference between the two. And as far as the Fetterman issue, or fucking, I don't know who else in the Democratic Party that becomes the current whipping boy around stuff, whether it's Newsom because he went on like 3 right-wing podcasts and talked like a relatively normal like nationwide candidate that wants to be considered for national office, that none of them, including Fetterman, chart anywhere near fucking Lisa Murkowski being for Medicaid cuts so that she can have whaling credits. Get the fuck out of here. Like, the fact that the conversation even comes up, I find I find it immoral. I find it morally reprehensible, because it creates this, it allows for the carry of this lesser of two evils bullshit. And you know how I feel about that. Other than that, I have no opinion.
Of course. Neither do I. I have no strong opinions, and I make no declarative statements. Lisa Murkowski actually lost her deal thanks to the Senate parliamentarian. So she sold her soul to Trump yet again for nothing. For nothing. She can still vote against the bill. I don't expect her to. And this is the same woman who last week was talking about how scared she is, and she's worried, she's scared. Because I guess she's getting, threats and pressure from up on high. If you're scared of Donald Trump, if they're pressuring you, if they're threatening you, fucking stand up and say, Donald Trump is pressuring me to do this because he's a bully who does this. It's the same thing with Tom Tillis. I saw Democrats and Democratic supporters praising Tom Tillis for standing up on the Senate floor and be like, what am I supposed to tell 663,000 people? Da, 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 da. You're supposed to tell them that Joni Ernst bullied you into confirming Pete Hegseth. And that's why you're now resigning instead of sticking, because you're a fucking coward who bent. You bent to Joni Ernst. You let yourself be bullied. You voted to confirm Pete Hegseth. You have no place standing on the Senate floor and whining and complaining because now you're going to resign because you're a fucking coward. Nobody needs to praise Tom Tillis. Oh, you stood up and said this is a bad bill? Too fucking late. It is too fucking late. The right thing to do was not confirm Pete Hegseth, not bend to Joni Ernst. The thing to do was to stand up and hold a press conference and say, Joni Ernst called me and said these exact words. And if I didn't confirm Pete Hegseth, somebody might have threatened my family, or somebody might have shown up at my house, or somebody might be following me, whatever, because they're the party of violence. If you want to denounce your party, you need to do it fully and fucking walk away, not that way. Tell the truth about what they're doing. And I'm going to continue to demand, aside from the fact that we need a Democratic press secretary all the way back in January, we need someone out there briefing everybody on the truth every day. I still want any Democrat, I don't care who it is, some Democrat needs to stand up and tell their Republican colleagues to say on the record, are you loyal to Trump or are you loyal to America? Because it cannot be both. You cannot love Trump and America. You can't. It is impossible. You've chosen loyalty to this one man for whatever your reasons are. Embrace those reasons. Tell us what they are. If you're so proud you've chosen Donald Trump over the country, stand up in chambers on the record and then say, I love him so much, I'm resigning my seat to serve just to serve him in any way, because they don't belong in Congress. If they're choosing loyalty to him, if they're working for him and not their constituents, they're not doing the job. They don't deserve to keep that job. That's the bottom line. And we need to get super aggressive with that. And I make phone calls and it's because it's my job, right? Like today before I came on the show, because I saw Jim Banks was on, I think he was on with Drunky Maria Bartiromo, but I don't remember who it was. But he was talking about, he was leaning into the ableism and doing all of this, doing the dance about the big bullshit bill. And so I called him and I'm like, what the big bullshit bill will do is kill the people that elected you. Mm-hmm. That's what it does. Taking food from vulnerable children in low-income families. How does starving children make us healthier or greater? How? Tell me how. Tell me how stripping $900 million, all of this money from Medicaid makes anybody better, makes anybody healthier.
I'll tell you where they came from. I'll tell you where they come from it. And again, we hear this with our ears and we speak this with our words. They don't. And I know. Increasingly, as the passive eugenics crowd has taken over the Republican Party from this Ayn Randian libertarian shift away from the evangelical Christian movement of even the 90s and the early 2000s, they have moved to, you can't say everybody, most people are useless eaters, and we should have a system where people have to prove their worth to get the services and the rights that they have in this country, instead of guaranteeing them for all these fucking losers. That's honestly the way they think about this. And can I show you real quick on kind of what I was talking about earlier, real quick. This is govtrack.us does a take on the political spectrum, like where people are as far as their votes and what they have allowed through and what they have co-sponsored with the other party and the like. Okay, here's Fetterman. Okay, there he is on this chart. He is to the left of Schiff, of Hickenlooper, of Ossoff, of Kelly, of Peters, of Warnock. Warnock is the farthest right of all of them in terms of voting people through.
That's interesting.
Right.
That's interesting.
And again, Coons, who is great, is to the right of him because he has co-sponsored more things with the Republican Party and voted for more people to get through, technically by the numbers, than anybody else. Mm-hmm. Rosen also, Jean Shaheen, Cortez Masto, and Schumer are to the right of Fetterman in terms of those votes, and Cantwell is dead on. Okay. So the idea that this is my point. All the fixation we throw Fetterman's way is because of how he acts in public or his kind of like outside language about this stuff. But his votes, when on a material level, put him to the left of Warnock and Ossoff. And again, all of these motherfuckers, they've got Warnock to the right of Murkowski and Collins.
That's crazy, though, because they always flip.
They
always
don't
say
always
they're going to do something, and then they walk it back.
But here's the thing. They hold things up in committee, and that's how they get points. So they stop things before they start. But the point I'm trying to make,
that you don't see.
I'm sure there's some debatability about some of these numbers, but I want you to know that there's no fucking even situation where Fetterman charts to the right of everybody in the party, much less some of the people you think of as hardline Democrats who are pushing it. And that's because anything to the left of where Warnock is on this is 100% fucking Democrat. The only thing that crosses over is Murkowski and Collins. None of this shit is helping Donald Trump destroy shit from the inside, and all of them are voting against the big bill, any of his budget shit, his tax cuts, all that kind of stuff. And the fact that people pick him out because he's bald and looks like Lurch or looks like a villain, he looks like an extra on the Addams Family or whatever. Yeah. Or the fact that he wears a hoodie or whatever draws I know, but draws extra attention to him is not indicative of his voting record. And again, I have been, like, lately especially, I've been particularly fixated on that on our side of the aisle, and believe me, there are maggots that do this too. So it's not, it's a human failure. And I just want to purge it from our side because I would like to actually save lives and get some good shit done, as opposed to feel good about myself and wear the right hat. Because there's a bunch of maggots out there who are voting against their own interests, obviously, who are undermining themselves. But as long as you wear the hat, they don't give a rat fuck what you do. And that's why they'll always come home to roost with Trump. They'll vote Trump no matter who instead of red no matter who. And that's what's wrecking their party. On our side, there are a shit ton of people who are so proud of the fact that they're against the man that even if the man is the first black president, he might as well be George W. Bush, and they can't see the fucking difference. And they pride themselves on this and sell this idea that it's the system itself. Well, if you really believe that, then who gives a fuck about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, or S-chip or SNAP? Because if you think the whole system has to come down, where the fuck do you think that system comes from? Who do you think maintains that system if the government falls? For real. If you don't think the social safety net is the first thing to go when a government falls, and we resort to sort of like feudalism, you're fucking insane. Like it's pathetic to me that we're even tap dancing around the idea that any Democrat is a problem. There aren't.
No,
there are no Democrats that are a
agree.
fucking problem one. Not one. And Menendez would have counted, but he's out because that's what we do.
Yeah, and it only passed in the House to move to the Senate by one vote. And the only reason it passed by only one vote is that a Republican who would have also voted for it overslept and missed the vote. So this just tells you it's it's a very unpopular bill. It's unpopular with the American people. Every poll about this bill shows that it's incredibly unpopular. People don't want it. Oh, for crying out loud. I mean, not only do most Americans hate this big, beautiful bill, the dollar is now worth less on the global stage for the first time in forever, thanks to Trump. It is not worth a full dollar anymore. It doesn't have the same exchange rate around the world. And also, his approval rating is the lowest for anyone in the first 6 months of an administration ever. It's even worse than his first administration. So Donald Trump is such a loser that he can even lose to himself. And while all of this is going on and this big bullshit bill thing is happening, because they, again, they want to distract from what they're doing with the big, beautiful bill. And one of the things that they're doing to distract from this is attack a melanated human being who became the nominee for New York City mayor. They think that right now, the most important thing to do is to bag on Mamdani, because God forbid, New York City should have a Muslim mayor who's a democratic socialist who wants to do good things for the people of the city. And I mean, most of the country doesn't pay attention to the New York City mayor's race because it has nothing to do with them. And all of a sudden, everybody's big mad about it because he's a Muslim. And it's astonishing to me what they will do to distract from real fuckery by creating these distractions as they do. What Andy Ogles is doing to Mamdani right now it's unspeakable. It's an unspeakable targeted attack on an American citizen, specifically one who could be the mayor of New York City. And it makes me sick. It's bad enough for them to attack any American citizen, right? Because they do that. They like to single people out and turn them into scapegoats. If it's a woman, great. If it could be a black woman, better. If it's Kilmar Abrego Garcia, awesome. This xenophobic, racist take on what America is supposed to look like is also a humongous part of the problem, and not part of the conversation enough. It's not like, again, because all of the things they want to distract us from, like every Monday, you and I talk about how Donald Trump is all over the Epstein files and Pam Bondi is protecting him, even as MAGA continues to call for the release of the Epstein files. None of these people understand what they're mad about anymore, I don't think. They just are mad for the sake of being mad, and Donald Trump told them to be mad. So they're acting mad when they don't understand what's going on. Like, they should be mad that last week, after he didn't blow up Iran and he didn't obliterate Iran, that he very casually mentioned that he gave Iran permission to bomb a U.S. military base in Qatar. He's like, yeah, does 1 o'clock work for you? Yeah, 1 o'clock's fine. And everyone's like, that's not what he said. I'm like, fucking yes, he did. Watch it. Watch the footage. He said to Iran, oh, you want to attack us because we attacked you? That seems right. Yeah, go ahead. Nobody's talking about that. Why isn't anybody? That seems to me like a giant, huge story. The sitting president of the United States, whether he has an asterisk next to the word president or not, should not ever, 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 ever give anyone permission to attack a U.S. military base anywhere for any reason. Right there itself is an impeachable offense. And everyone's like, shrugging it off, shrugging. That seems to me, I mean, that's a failure of the media, and it's a failure of the Democratic Party to not stand up and shine a tremendous light on that, because the big bullshit bill is distracting from that. So it's like, you know, you're juggling like 100,000 different balls, and some are going to drop, but the ones you catch, like, really are the ones to focus on. Why aren't more people talking about the fact that he gave Iran permission to do that? Why? I mean, like, I'm seriously asking, how do you make people care about the things that they're supposed to care about?
I'll tell you why.
There's so many things going on.
I'll tell you why. I think Democrats are concerned that if they don't give him a pass on this, it will lead to more bombing. And so they would rather eat that part of it and go, all right, they gave him safe face or whatever, and now we're not invading this fucking country. We're not actually attacking them. Like, because if Trump felt like it, he would. He's already said. He said yesterday, I think, well, yeah, of course, if they reconstitute their system, I'll start bombing them again. Well, they've said they're already going to do it. So he's already got reason to do it. I think Democrats are like, you just did this because you're a fucking pussy, and they, you made a deal with them, and he'll go, no, I didn't. I'll show you, and then we'll end up bombing them again. That's why. Honest to God, I think Democrats are trying to, like, if we push him on this, he's got the power to attack again, and that power can't be taken away except by the voter, which brought him back in. And even though he did not qualify as having a mandate by any stretch of the imagination, he still has enough power as president to do a whole lot of awful shit. And that's part of the tiptoe.
He's doing it.
Yep. And if they can stop him from
Well-
doing even marginal amounts of it, it could save lives. So it's why governors end up, like Whitmer or even Newsom, when they're talking to him directly, talk in a like a gentle person, as opposed to calling him a motherfucker and throwing a drink in his face, because it will affect, because he's the president of the United States, their constituents. And so you're like, well, I want this moment, so fuck, 8,000 of my constituents the next time there's a flood. That's what they're having to deal with. That's why. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's not Democrats in office fault. It's our fault. It's our fault. It's Democrats not showing up. It's independents that, fluctuate all over the fucking place. It's our fault. It's the voters' fucking fault. Period. End of story.
It's also the media's fault for not reporting on him accurately. It's the media's fault for not holding him accountable for anything. It's the media's fault for not pushing back. When we see, and this is something that Devlin and I covered extensively last Thursday on our podcast, The Tarish Show, which you can watch on the Political Voices Network on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. But I took the time because it mattered to me, and it will always matter. When Donald Trump attacks the media, when he singles somebody out in the media, and nobody comes to defend that person, that's a fault of the rest of the media, and it's also our fault too. So when he attacks anybody who tells the truth about him, and I know this personally because I've been blocked by him on Twitter for nearly 10 years. August is the 10-year anniversary, and we have to have some sort of party or celebration, and we will. But he's a coward who hates the truth about himself and will never admit it, and he doesn't want to ever have to answer a question. So, like, he just went after Natasha Bertrand from CNN because she had the audacity to report on the fact that he didn't obliterate anything in Iran except more truth, right? And so he attacks her. He writes this long Truth Social bullshit thing about attacking her, and CNN should fire her. He loves to scapegoat a woman and blah, 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 blah. It's infuriating to watch the rest of the media shrink from him instead of stand up to him. And I gave the media a call to action, and it needs to come from us supporting them and pursuing accountability and making sure that we are all, like those of us in the indie media who have the ability to speak out like we do, go and tell people, hey, you know what? The next time you're in the press room or the next time you're at a press conference and he attacks someone, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter what the question is. Let's just say somebody from CNN stands up and says, how about this? And he goes, well, you know, you're fake news and CNN. Somebody else from another news outlet, I don't care who it is, needs to stand up and go, I'm so-and-so from this news outlet, and I'd like to hear the answer to that question. And then another person stands up and goes, I'm April Ryan. I'd love to hear the answer to that question. And then a fourth person stands up, and they all stand until he answers or he walks away like a fucking coward, because it's enough already. You hold him accountable by making him answer questions. If he doesn't, then you follow up and say, why can't you answer that question? Why don't you answer this question? Why can't you say this? When he says something is fake news, my question would be, did you think that when CNN was covering the Palisades fire, that fake news? When they announced that you won the election, is that fake news? Because they announced it on CNN. Is it fake? You're the original source of fake news. I don't care what happens after that. It's like the great Helen Thomas said, just ask the question. Because when you just ask the question and that question gets shared, that's almost enough. Because sometimes, you know, no answer is your answer. But you ever watch it in a press conference, he's never going to answer a question. Going into a press conference, the media needs to know that. He's not going to answer me, so I need to be prepared for when that happens. Because at his next press conference, he is going to find somebody on that press line in that gaggle to attack specifically and personally, so he doesn't have to be held responsible ever. That is always what he's done. Enough already. It's 10 years that you have been enabling him. Enough. It is enough. It is an abusive relationship that you have to end, and we have to support them in it. So when we see this happening, as members of the independent media, it is up to us to stand with that member of the corporate media and say, this is wrong, and you should get these answers. When it's anybody. So I'm calling for that. I don't know how effective that could be unless other people hear me say it and share it and also demand it, because stop lying down. There's no reason to fear a mean tweet. That's not going to end your life. I get mean tweets every fucking day and I'm still here. He blocked me 10 years ago and I'm still here. Okay? So don't be scared to stand up and say, this is untrue, follow it up, demand better. You don't have to get an answer from him. It's better to show him for who he is. He walks away, he's a coward who can't answer a question. That's the story. You know? Like, it's enough already. You have to change the way you cover him to change the narrative about him. And until you do that, we're stuck in this cycle.
I also agree that in the process of that, there must be a pride movement in the Democratic Party and amongst Democratic supporters. Stop tiptoeing around all the good that Democrats have come up with over the year, be it everything from Social Security to S-chip and SNAP to fair housing to the Civil Rights Act, all those things that for some reason, Democrats, because we haven't gotten as far as we want to get, all of it has this kind of like temporary, unnecessary feel to it, even though Democrats pass laws, much as, or like, look how much Republicans are just like applauding Trump's executive orders all the time, like he's actually fucking doing something. He's not. Oh my God. And Democrats, meanwhile, get something across the finish line like the ACA, and if you asked the slacktivist crowd or the online left to describe it, I mean, anybody, unlike, I guess, I would give, I think the Midas Touch guys would speak honestly about it and be good. But everybody else that's been around for a couple of decades, especially, like I said, the TYT crowd and that kind of stuff, they'll shit all over it. Never mind the 24 million people that had insurance. Never mind the people who've been kept alive because they were able to stay on their parents' insurance till they were 27 years old. All that. All the benefits of it, throw it out the window because it didn't go far enough, and therefore it's bad. And that's how it has been, like, spoken of on our side of the aisle. And that's got to end. That's got to stop. And we've got to push back against it as well. And I would line that thing up that I was showing everybody about Fetterman. You, Boston Brian, a couple of the other people I talk to on the regular, his name comes up all the time. And he's to the left of Schiff on voting.
Yeah. Well, I think most people don't know that is the
right.
problem. Because
and you know why they don't know it? You know why they don't know it? Because they didn't look it up. And they don't. And they keep saying it because somebody they like said it. And that's the problem. And I am such an asshole about this stuff, and I get it, but it has to be said. I am not gonna let the prevailing myth overwhelm the facts on the ground. And I also, nobody gets points for maggoting their way through this and using the right language if they can't get fucking bills passed that actually change people's lives. Joe Biden spent his entire presidency planting trees under which he will never sit in the shade. Everything from the Infrastructure Act, which removes lead pipes from, to like rebuilding almost every elementary school across the fucking country. And the fact that anybody would be like, I don't know, Biden, Trump, what's the difference, Genocide Joe, is fucking immoral. It is vain. It is vainglorious and despicable. And I'm not going to tiptoe around this shit anymore. It's terrible. It is terrible. The Fetterman thing is an example of how that's us taking the bait that the Republicans throw our way, that that they live in this language bubble of MAGA, and if we don't have the equivalent, we're somehow not competing on the same field. Well, I don't want to compete on the same field. I'm not afraid of complexity. I'm not afraid of complex issues where you have to solve the problem without causing more damage, and you have to sit across from people who have different ideas about it than you and work that shit out. And I don't think it's wrong that Republicans and Democrats have to sit down in our representative government and work this shit out. Even if I hate everything the Republicans come up with, it is better than people being murdered in the fucking street or us having to have a Euromaidan every 21 years like they have in other countries. And if you think stuff falls apart and that it'll magically fall into some sort of utopian way, whether it's maggots who think that it'll default to this like Wild West libertarian, superland where they'll always win the gunfight, or whether you think it'll fall into a Marxist utopia where we're all pulled together like it's the fucking season 2 of Walking Dead before everybody starts caving each other's heads in with bats. It's not. What it falls into is fucking Sudan, an ignored civil war with 500,000 people on the verge of starving to death, 1.5 million dead or displaced in 6 fucking months. That's what it turns into. And so this idea that like it can just fall apart or it'll just fix itself or whatever, and we can, as long as everybody's using the right gang colors and the right gang language, you're okay, is fucking offensive. It's grotesque. It's immoral. And it aggravates the living shit out of me, obviously.
Obviously. If you want to go back to they're the same, Joe Biden and Donald Trump are still the same, I would say, look at the footage from the Hortman's funeral from the weekend. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden, who is living with stage 4 prostate cancer in his bones, was there, spent hours speaking with people. There's a video. Oh my God. I don't even know if I can talk about it without crying. There's a woman in a wheelchair who gets to meet Joe Biden either before or after the funeral. And she can't stop crying. Like she's ugly crying because she loves him so much. And she understands what a good human being he is. And if you needed proof that Joe Biden is a superior human being, watch that footage and then know that Donald Trump was golfing all weekend and never was bothered to even call Tim Walz. Didn't make a phone call and said when he was asked about it, he's like, should I call him? I don't think I have to call him. I might call him. I probably won't call him. It's just vile. It's
Look,
vile. He golfs
were
while he forced the Republicans to work through the big bullshit bill all weekend because he doesn't give a fucking shit about anybody but himself.
He golfed when our 4 soldiers came back from Lithuania in coffins. He hasn't been to a dignified transfer of our soldiers since one parent got mad at him after the 4th time he went in his first term, and he stopped going. There were 94 exchanges. He went to 4 of them.
It made him uncomfortable.
The idea that it's a coin flip is viciously grotesque.
It's disgusting. It is disgusting. And every time I share the Epstein Files clip that I recorded last year, a full year ago, because it was last June, I believe, late June when I recorded it last year. Every time I share that, every single time some MAGA person shows up with a really bad Photoshop of Joe Biden in a shower with a grandchild or something bullshit like that. And I always come back when I determine it's a real human. I always come back with your line. How long would have it taken you to peg Jeffrey Epstein as a pedo, and why do you think it took? Why would have it taken Donald Trump that long to figure it out for himself?
Right.
Who do you think Pam Bondi is protecting behind those blacked out lines on the binders? Because it's not Bill Clinton.
None of the people I voted for are on that list, buddy.
So, I mean, if Bill Clinton took the plane and went to the island, that doesn't mean he did a bad once he got there. Doesn't mean that at all. Means he may have conducted legitimate business.
Well, he also didn't. Okay, so even amongst that, like if he did, fuck him, and if he because it doesn't change the values that I elected him to carry out. Right, that was what I'm focusing on. It's it occurred to me this week when there was some joke about like, it's like it's an old like Jewish and Catholic joke, which is like Jews are born with guilt and Catholics learn it in school. Right, that was that, and I was like, I don't know, I don't think either one, and nobody has intrinsic guilt or is taught intrinsic guilt. You have to have a moral character to come to that, and I think every human being is capable of it, because neither Jeffrey Epstein or the priests that molested kids turned themselves in. So this kind of inherent idea of guilt is a little silly. So but the one thing that nobody can say, and this is what bugs Trump, I think, more than anything, and why he grinds on trying to turn, the Bidens into a crime family, or, or Obama into, something where he's gay or has a boyfriend, or Michelle's a man. All that kind of stuff comes from the fact that neither of them are on the Epstein list, and Donald Trump is. He's all over them. And that's why they're never going to come out, no matter how much he could pass his stupid bill, and it's not going to benefit his followers. They're going to be eating shit by the end of his presidency, and definitely during the midterms. It is going to affect things. Republicans who are voting, want to vote against it or are afraid to know this. They know this. They know that impact is coming, and there's no way for them to avoid it. But they've got to vote for it because they're afraid that maggots will fucking target them for violence or primarying. Right. But well, I mean, here's the thing, though. They have cultivated.
I'm so tired of that.
Yeah, but they've cultivated actual violence.
No, I know.
That's I mean, they are dealing with the ramifications of something they may have taken for granted, but is very real, and that's why the ones that like stand up in terms of Cliff was saying with like Liz Cheney, like the fact that she was going to run again, considering what she did. Those fuckers want to kill her, and again, I don't even want her on the team, but I want to be able to argue with her. In the same way that we don't want maggots to die, we want to be able to argue with them. We want them to survive, but their own supporters, their own leaders, do not. Trump, Musk, Vance, Peter Thiel, all those guys think that they've outstayed their welcome. And to some degree, the fentanyl crisis was here just to, shave off the edges a little bit, cull the herd a little bit. And then once it started reaching like upper middle class white kids at college in Florida, that's when they wanted to dial it back. Yeah. Not until then.
Look. No. And I mean, they love death. They love death so much. Look at Ron DeSantis and his fucking alligator Alcatraz. Mm-hmm. Look at that shit. He was like gleeful. He basically had like a mini boner talking about, look, here are the showers and here are the dorms. Like, here are gas chambers. Here's where we're going to work them to death. I mean, they're gleefully planning the deaths of Americans. They love death. It is
all
a
right.
death
Well,
cult.
okay. So here's the thing. I will push back on one thing is that I don't think that's what they're selling to maggots. We might feel that way because we find them grotesque, but that's not what they're selling to maggots. What they're selling to maggots is these people are so dangerous and they want to murder and rape your daughters and kill everybody that we have to put them in a basically a Florida version of Alcatraz with alligators around it, or they will escape surfing on the backs of these things and come into your city and go nuts and murder everyone. They are, as much as they might be celebrating death, and we know that, like I said, Peter Thiel and these crowd are all for the cull. That's not what they're selling to people. And once you realize that, once you realize the messaging isn't what we see when they're doing it, if you look at what the messaging, then you can actually answer it. You can respond to it. You can take people that are being manipulated and either change their mind or talk them down or get them to recognize they're being bullshitted. And those are the only three options you have with people who voted for Trump. Either you got to make them realize they were bullshitted, so they either change their vote or they actually vote different. They vote differently, or they stop voting altogether if they're that disenfranchised, or they pull themselves out of it because they do the whole like nihilistic Joe Rogan. All people are corrupt. Because they got flim-flam, because they bought the bullshit. Suddenly, it's not that they got suckered. It's that, oh my God, these people are all manipulative. Like, no, it isn't. Right. It's the system. It's the establishment that's going after. It's the deep state. No, it isn't. You're a fucking sucker. Deal with it. And that's and what they're selling, what they're playing, what they're selling with this alligator Alcatraz thing is they have sold this thing that there are dangerous people among us, murderers, terrorists, rapists, that they've come from asylums and all this stuff. Well, if you really believe that, where are they?
Yeah.
If you could see them and they're not there, what the fuck? Or was that just all bullshit? Right?
That was just bullshit, Joel.
Right? This is it's a crucial part of this is that if you're going to turn these people around or dissuade them from voting, or at least make them realize that they were suckered, maybe they'll vote for somebody, even if they're not ready to be liberal, if they'll vote for somebody who's legit conservative and at least wants to maintain democracy while moving it in their direction, which again, I disagree with, but at least it's on a human level that they're doing something. If you want to get there, you can't see it through just our lens. And you don't have to speak MAGA. That's the whole bullshit that Cenk is trying to sell, that you got to speak to the populism that he's doing. No, because it's a lie. He's lying, and I don't need to sell somebody another fucking lie. I just got to make the truth more interesting. I got to make the truth more engaging. And I've got to also make the truth more fearless with them. And that's where the jargon language stuff really fucks with everybody. It makes people tiptoe, because if we haven't solved all the problems, then none of the solutions should get any credit, which is a big problem right now. That is, if there's a single problem within democratic messaging, it's that if we go, we fixed unemployment, we got it down to 4%, there's a huge chorus of, what about the 4%, right? And you're like, asshole, exactly. We know, but we're making progress. And if progressives that hate progress are the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You have to be able to take credit for every step, because the mountain is difficult, it is a long climb, and it is dangerous. And every time you're able to put an anchor in, even if you're not to the summit yet, you've got to get credit for that. Because otherwise, what's the option? Sliding back down the fucking hill. And that's where we are right now. This is the price you pay for not touting your victories. For being so afraid to have an ego, a positive ego about the shit you want to do, that you cede all the ego to the other side, and they come in and go, we win everything. If you want to be happy, cool, and excited about life, you have to come our way. And it's like, it's bullshit. You're allowing them to steal. You're allowing them to steal that fervor. And that's why I think your point about like going out on the 4th of July, not being afraid to wear the flag, not being able to, being afraid to tout the USA, or being proud of our country in spite of its flaws, will drive those fuckers crazy because
That's right. And
they want to turn America as an idea into a gated community. And if you want to knock down those walls, that's how you do it.
that's right. And this country does not belong to any one individual or
Right.
any one group or any one party.
Right.
This country was founded for all of us. This isn't
Mhm.
a Christian nation. It is a free nation.
Mhm.
And it's going to remain free because we're going to make sure it remains free. That's why we are here. If we didn't care, we wouldn't be here. We'd be sitting on our asses, probably counting money that we somehow grifted from Republicans and their donors. So,
Mhm.
it's those of us who are invested in democracy, it's always going to be a battle while the Republicans are in power.
That's right.
What we're seeing, and now we're faced with not even knowing if we're real citizens anymore, thanks to the Supreme Court ruling. Do we have birthright citizenship anymore? I
Yes,
was
we
born
do.
in Brooklyn. Where am I
Yes.
being deported
Hold on.
to?
Hold on. Real quick. I
Yeah.
get where don't comply in advance. And the ruling
No.
about birthright citizenship doesn't come till October, and it will be held. It will because it is clear in the Constitution and in the amendments. They would have to pass a law that rescinds it. It is the only way it's going. What was taken out was the ability for district judges to make injunctions, nationwide injunctions. That's rough. That's bad. But it's also the very thing that kept Biden from being able to get rid of student debt. That was one of these injunctions. Back and forth, Democrats and Republicans have been fighting for this in particular. It's particularly bad that it didn't come off the books until Trump was in office, because Democrats don't think to do that kind of shit, because we're like, well, if that breaks the rules, we'll make sure what we're doing will fit within the rules. It's a good way to be, but it's also how we, by using that as a way of solving the legislative issues in the same way that DACA was done with the stroke of a pen, while we might have felt by the end of Obama, because what's the possibility Trump gets in, and then where are they? That everybody had to we're clamoring for Obama to do it via executive order. The problem is what happens when he goes. The very people that came out and said, yes, I'm here illegally, and therefore I want to be a DACA recipient, are now up. It was like don't ask, don't tell. Once you came out under don't ask, don't tell, you couldn't go back in the fucking closet. So a lot of people were afraid that you had to pass it as legislation. And what happens is because our slacktivist class on our own side downplays so many of these fucking victories that we get in a position where we can't pass a bill if it doesn't do everything, because that whole if we can't have everything, nobody gets anything attitude amongst the the slacktivists and far left crowd amongst us, that if you can't get it over the line with just get that stake in the ground so we can move forward. If it doesn't do everything, they're like, fuck it. This is all just bought and paid for. Everybody's siding with the other. There's too much giveaway, blah, blah, blah. And then nothing happens. And the most vulnerable people are left to get fucked. And that's why you see Jimmy Dore and these motherfuckers talking about how transgender stuff and gay rights are a distraction. Well, why are they saying that? Because the very same people...
To distract us.
Right, because we passed the legislation. We spent time passing legislation so the gay people could, get married in states all over the place. And then it had to be done through the courts because people didn't want to do the heavy lifting of getting it through legislation. And now those people's lives are on the line every time the court changes.
That's right.
And at the same time, these motherfuckers vote I don't know, I threw a road at Jill Stein because I blah, blah, blah. And meanwhile, who controls the fucking SCOTUS right now? There is no excuse.
Leonard Leo?
Yes, right. Fetterman is to the left of Schiff. I want everybody to remember that the next time they knee-jerk bitch about something that he's doing. Secondly, I want you to understand that everybody in the Democratic Party is doing everything possible through multitude of strategies, whatever they think, they're all trying for the same goal. And every Republican right now, no matter how much they play at pretending, like Murkowski and stuff, that they're somehow, moving into a middle area, are absolutely playing on Team Trump. And the distinction has never been clearer.
No,
it's
good
never been
guys
clearer.
And bad guys at its basic level. Good guys versus bad guys.
We have
We're the
one
good guys.
job. We have one job right now. Red districts, purple, purple district's blue. You don't get credit for making a blue district bluer. It's a jerk off. I'm very happy that maybe Mom Donnie wins. You know, we don't know yet. It was a Democratic primary with ranked voting. That cool. But it's not going to affect federal law. It's not going to affect even state law within New York. It won't be able to override that. There'll be, at the best, it'll be a pilot program that will take 6 years. Right. Yeah. It'll take 6 years to see the ramifications of it. And like I said, I'm totally cool with it. And if I was a New Yorker, I would vote for the guy. But outside of that, we got work to do. And that work is red district purple, purple district blue. If you are able to like broom a Democrat for another Democrat, you're wasting fucking money and energy. There is no excuse. We need a mandate like Trump is claiming he has. We need a real one so that we have a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate. That takes work. That takes fucking work. Yeah.
I'm gonna get Cliff's grant so that I can devote even more time to fighting for our democracy and putting the truth out into the world, because that matters to me more than anything. Making sure that there is a destination for people when they are freaking out and they don't know what to do. They can come and hang out with us, and we're gonna be like, hey, listen, I understand you're at threat level midnight, but let's dial it down. And this is why I'm so grateful for you, because you cut through all of this bullshit because you know so much about it. Like, you're not doing it because you're throwing stupid facts to placate people. You know the real shit.
Yes.
You know the real reasons why we shouldn't be living at threat level midnight, because we have ways to dial down the national temperature.
We got work we can do.
And we have work we can do, and we are not helpless, and we are not hopeless. And I expect everybody to stand up for our country every single day in whatever way works for you. I'm not going to tell you how to be an activist, but I'm going to ask you to be one. Just every act of resistance matters, no matter how small. It always matters. And so supporting us here on the Political Voices Network, supporting Hal, supporting me, sign up for my Substack, sign up for Hal's, hang out with everybody on the Political Voices Network, because we're never going to lie to you, and we're always going to help you through the hard times. That's why we're here. And as a parting gift, please know that I'm sending you my love and appreciation for anyone who's going to like put that back into the world. Also, thank you to everybody who sent me messages, and I got some Venmos earlier for the tooth. So thank you. Nice. Thank you. Also, if you care, my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, is still available at TaraDublinRocks.com. And I don't know what happened over the last 7 days, but somebody or 8 somebodies read my book so that 3,300 pages were read in a week.
Nice.
That's great. Which is great, right?
Yeah.
That's super great. I was read on the Kindle. I'm delighted. I don't know if it was 8.25 reads or one person, like from one person, or 8 different people, because the sales don't match up. It doesn't. Thank you. All I care about, like, I have so much gratitude for anybody who takes the time to support our cause, but then to support individuals is amazing, and to read a book now is delightful. Thank you. I'm awesome. Trying to give as much gratitude back to the universe as I can.
Absolutely.
Because shit is hard. And anytime I get anything good, it's like, thank you so much. Thank you, wherever it came from.
Ariel, thank you. I have to say, so let me tell you something. One of the great things about being a comedian and being an actor straight out of school, like I joined SAG when I was 16 years old. I've been in the union since I was 16 years old. And
there's power in a union.
Oh yeah. The crucial thing, though, is that I have never in my life experienced what I call the illusion of security. Whether it was moving from Kentucky, from the fucking sticks, to Chicago for 4 years and scrapping as much as I could to just gain any ground on what would be my career, and then graduating high school, packing all my shit and moving to Los Angeles. And again, what I call the 90s, the Sisyphus years, just rolling up there. I have never had a situation where I was like, well, at least I've got a job. At least I've got bennies from the job. Never had it. Never knew what that was like. And so I've never experienced the kind of idea that it's not going to be hard. And by the way, my life, as far as finding work and maintaining it, will always be that. There is no like gig in my future that is guaranteed on any front.
Same.
And so maybe that's one of the gifts I can give to other people is who are used to some version of stability and security, that when they see things are bad, those of us who've been through just on a cycle of, feast and famine over the course of our lives, that it gets better and you can keep working to make it better. And that there is, everybody, even when it's, the tide is against you and it seems like the other folks that you're competing with are gaining ground all the time. Curiously enough, there is always these reversals of fortune.
Yeah.
And
good people, you find
right.
your people. Good people find each other. Good people support each other. Good people who do good things have good things happen to them in return. And they may be giant things and they may be tiny things. It could be as small as, I hung out with this person the other night and it turns out that they might have a job for me. Awesome. It could be a humongous thing like, Stephen King just tweeted that he loves my book. That'd be amazing. Well, because today is the 2-year anniversary of when Stephen King started following me back on Twitter. So,
nice.
yeah. But again, we're the good guys and the good guys do good things. And sometimes we tell people that we did the good things. Most of us do the good things for the sake of doing them, and we don't have to broadcast them. You just follow the Joe Biden way of living, and you just go and do, or you do what Paul Newman. I shared this story on my Facebook yesterday because I read about it from somebody else. But Paul Newman, throughout his life, and then I'll let you go. Paul Newman, throughout his life, always, a humanitarian and philanthropic to the last, and his company gave away 100% of their profits. But when I learned that every time he was negotiating a contract for a movie, he would ask for like exorbitant fancy things like a driver and fancy business and all kinds of perks. And then when he got on the set, he would rescind those, take the money from that and give it to kids in the immediate area. Some kind of kids charity, help kids, help one person. But he constantly was giving away stuff and never advertised it. Never told anybody. People just kind of found out about it organically. Like if they were on the set with him and they heard about it, they're like, that's fucking awesome. I'm going to do that too. And that is a grassroots movement. That is a democratic American way of life, is to help each other without taking any credit, without making it about you, because we are all in it together. And that is what I always try to live my life. I love to do good things for other people because it makes me feel good to do it. But I don't have to tell you that I did it to make me feel good. I already did it. It lives in me. The goodness lives in us. And that's the reason I do what I do. I could go get a job anywhere, maybe waiting tables, even at 56. I could go out and do that instead. It would break my body and break my spirit. But instead, I want to do good in the whole world. I want to put good things into the world, whether they're big or they're small. And a friend of mine used to say that I try so hard and all I ever do is try to make things better. And sometimes I don't succeed, but that doesn't stop me from trying. And that's the whole point. And Sisyphus and I are like this. Like, I know that life. Some months I'm like, cool, got the rent, got the this, got the that. I am set. Next month I got the rent. Next month I got the rent. I don't got the rent next month. I got it this month. I don't got it next month.
Right.
By the middle of next month, I might have got the rent. But it's a constant thing. It's constant. But I'm not going to complain about it. I'm going to find solutions instead of complaining.
Right.
That's what
I will give everybody permission, by the way, to stop throwing in the caveats. I'm not always perfect. I won't always get it. I don't always reach it. I don't know, because no one does.
Hey, Ariel.
And there's this, there is some kind of assumption that when people say that, like, I'm not always perfect, but I blah, 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 as if that exists anywhere else. And there was a great line
doesn't.
There was a great line from Lenny Bruce where he was talking about how Jackie Onassis hauled ass when she, when John got shot. And he hated the idea that there was this lie being told that she was trying to signal to the security guy that they've been hit. And he goes, that guy didn't get a medal because the first lady, yelled at him, to make him run in that direction. And I'm sure somebody said, we're hit, we got to get out of here. And she started to crawl out of the way. And he goes, the reason that's important is because my daughter, if she's ever sitting there next to somebody and the guy gets shot and she gets out, she'll always feel low or sad because she didn't stay, because good women stay, and she just ran to save herself. And you can't put her on the hook for some impossible standard. And that's what happens when people talk about, like, I'm not always perfect, we're not always there, the country's imperfect, we like it, warts and all, and when we talk about that, because what that does is it allows the Donald Trumps of the world to do the zero warts version of things, and it allows the TYT, Jimmy Dore, and Russell Brand crowd to go 100% warts all the fucking time. It's childish. It's the perfection fallback. You know, nobody's perfect, but, like, yeah, we know that. And if you're saying that, you're trying to excuse the fact that, you know, or draw fire away from yourself. Don't bother. Just say what you're proud of and stick to it. There you go. There you go. You wrote a goddamn book, and good for you. And it's a great book, and there you go.
Goddamn book.
There you go.
That Cameron Crowe and Ellen Barkin and a whole bunch of people fucking love my book.
See?
It'll be a fucking amazing series.
See how easy it is?
Even better. The sequel's even better. And by
There you
the way,
go.
I'm a fucking awesome person with a great voice and a cool, I'm just a cool hang, and I should be on the radio, and I should be doing a whole bunch of other things, but until such time. And I will, by the way, I will get bigger, but I will never leave you. I will always come back and hang out with you. No, I will always take care emotionally of the people that are important to me, and I will always stay loyal to the people who were always there. I don't step over people to get anywhere. I'm not a grifter. I'm not a user. I'm just a person trying to get mine in a world where everyone's trying to get theirs. And I'm fucking awesome, which is why I'm on your show, because you're fucking awesome.
That's right.
I mean,
appreciate it.
I mean, you're the awesomest of the awesome. Everybody, I love you. I appreciate you. The next time I see you with Hal, I'll have one less tooth in my head, which means I'll have more capacity to do more.
Sure.
I don't know what it means, but I'm always going to be here. Is what
Awesome.
it means.
All right. Thank you so much. See you
I love
next
you
week.
guys.
Be well.
Thank
All right.
you.
Cheers.
Bye. See you on the
Bye.
show. Bye.
See you. Bye. There she goes. All right. And thank you guys. I know we went long today, but I tended to rant a bit today, but it was necessary. And I'm not going to back down from this shit ever. Just expect that. I'm not going to, like, this whole, like, nobody's perfect, but, like, stop it. That goes without saying. You know what doesn't go without saying? That regulations are safety regulations. That anybody who says, we need to cut all these regulations, just wants more lead in children's toys. And I will call them out on it for it. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. All right, I'll let you go. There's so much to cover and so much to do. All right. Hit that like, and thank you guys so much for the super chats. Really love it. I didn't do a goal this morning. I'll do one this afternoon. Thank you. All right. Go, credits, go. There they go.